Hey everyone, this is Major Batman here with Linkura Studios, here to go over a easy way to have a little debug stat profiler up in your headset so that you can see what your profile stats are as a VR developer, such as your FPS, verts, tries, and draw calls. So let's get started. So today we're using Unity 2021.3. The profile editor requires at least 2020.2 Unity in order for this to work. I am utilizing a basic XR rig that I configured in a prior tutorial. I'll leave the link up in the description. And my assets today are from the Polygon Horror Mansion set. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to unload the XR rig and we're going to go to the main camera. We're going to click it and go to UI and add a text mesh pro. And so that's going to create a canvas and a TMP. On the canvas element, we're going to go over to the right and we're going to make it a world space. This means it actually interacts with the world. It's not just a strict overlay. It's going to follow your camera around. We're going to then reset the rect transform, so zeroed out, and we're going to change the scale to 0.01. With that, it should make it a little bit smaller. It should fit well in. And if we look, it's now in the middle here. And so if we check out the game view, we can't really see it at the moment. But if we move this canvas and we move it forward in the Z about a meter, it is now right in front of us. And then for the text, we can click it, and then we're going to go to this middle center, click it, and then hold Alt and press the top center. So that's going to move to the top center. And then we're going to bring the font size down to maybe something like a 10 or 12. And so that's going to follow us around. We'll see it in the top left. We can adjust the colors, the font, whatever we want. We could really make this pretty, but this is just a quick and easy version for y'all. So let's get into the code. We're going to create a new C# script called Profiler Stats. And I have it here. Let me open it and we'll go over the code. So this is the code. So first off, we're going to want to add unity.profiling as well as using system.text. And in it, we're going to have three references to three different recorders: the triangle recorder, the draw calls recorder, and the vertices recorder. Then we're going to also add a public TM Pro Text Mesh Pro U GUI for the stat overlay. So the idea here is this is what you're going to drag over for your text that you're going to overwrite on the canvas we just did. Next, you're going to want to add a private int for the frames count, as well as a private float for frames time, as well as the last FPS. In our start function, we're going to basically check if we filled our stat overlay. If not, we're just going to get the local component. The idea here is that this profiler stats script is attached to the text component on the canvas. On enable, we're going to start new recorders. So the way this is the profile recorder, we're calling that. We're going to do a start new, and in it we're going to do a profiler category.render, which is the appropriate category, and then its title: vertices count, draw calls count, triangles count. So we're going to do one separate one for each of our variables. And then on disable, so whenever this isn't called or we disable the canvas, it would dispose of this so it's not running in the background. So the idea here is that we could enable and disable this canvas and it shouldn't have the impact. Kind of like a debugging mode. Alright, so here in the update function is where the meat of the potatoes is. So we're going to create a new string, a string builder, and then we're going to start off our frames count plus and frames time plus equals time.end scale time. So the way this works is we're basically counting each time the update gets counted on every frame. We're going to see how long has occurred in between, and then we're going to do a calculation of frames count divided by frames time every half second to determine what the new frames per second is. And we're going to store that as last FPS and then reset our variables. And then for our actual text, we're going to append lines. So for the FPS, we're going to add that last FPS we just referred to here. So the idea here is we only overwrite last FPS if the frames time if the frames time is above 0.5. Otherwise, we just keep using it. Next, we do the verts. So we're going to do the vertices recorder. We're going to do dot last value, and we're going to divide by 1,000 and add a little k here. So instead of getting a big number, we can see how many thousand verts and tries there are. And then last, we'll have the draw calls. And then finally, we're going to take the stat overlay.text, and we're going to put the string builder to a string, feeding it in. And that's the code. I'll include a link down in the description so you can grab it yourself. Okay, now that we know what the code is, we're going to go to the text element here, and we're going to drag over our profiler stat. So it's going to be on the text. Remember, it's going to just grab this text mesh pro, but we could also just move this over and select it. It's completely up to us. So let's go into VR and test it out. Okay, so we can see how the frames per second is updating. And as we move around, we get different draw calls for what we're looking at. The triangles and things are coming up. Like for example, I see the hands, and we immediately see an increase in our tries and verts. And so these are a few more what we have, and that's what we got. And so what you can really do with this is you could expand upon using maybe the tutorial for my wrist UI, where we can open up our wrist and we can select to debug mode or something of that nature, right? So we can just show it. That's one option. Perhaps we can screenshot, but the idea here is that we just look around and we mess in VR and we identify where those issues are, where we might be within draw call limits. And I'll put a link down in the description for where Oculus says what's the Quest and Quest 2 limits, so that you can kind of feed with this, and you can even expand this further, create graphs. A great tool like Unity Asset Graphy is available. Another option is to color code these so you can actually feed in the requirements and figure out what to do. Well, I hope this was helpful. Please leave a like and comment. I'd appreciate your support, and have a great day.